All right, welcome to this week's episode of Talkin Folk. This is Nick, and today we are talking Gillian Welch's Boots number 2. All right, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today, like I said, we are talking Boots number 2 by Gillian Welch and Welch. It's a hard name in general. Gillian, Welch. It's Gillian Welch. Boots number 2, The Lost Songs, Volume 1. And I think the name probably tells you that these are some lost songs. So I didn't really know much about this album until like yesterday, and it popped up on my music release thing as a new Gillian Welch, like a new Gillian Welch song popped up, and I was like, I really like Gillian Welch, let me check it out. And I was like, oh, this album is something different. So I think before we talk about this album, I have to talk a little bit about Gillian Welch because I haven't done an episode on her as a standalone. We did a reference to her and a lot about her in the episode of Who is John Henry with her song Elvis Presley Blues, which talks about John Henry, talks about Elvis Presley, and the differences in those two characters in terms of their rise and fall and kind of against each other, you know, in terms of the differences there. So check that out if you haven't. That was probably a month or so ago. But Gillian Welch is probably one of the best songwriters that, in terms of modern folk, Americana, country, that I don't really think that everybody knows about her. Enough people don't know about her. So I hope that this is, you know, her recent releases are giving her some more fame and publicity and stuff. But in terms of a backstory, so she's a country singer. She's lives in Nashville now, Nashville, Tennessee. And we'll get to her and David Rawlings in a minute, but she's actually from New York City. So her country, bluegrass, folk sound is something that she learned by appreciation and just being a fan of the genre, not necessarily growing up in Nashville or, you know, any of these places that are kind of known for that type of bluegrass music or anything. And went to Berkeley here in Boston and met David Rawlings, and eventually was like, I gotta go to where all these albums were recorded, all of her favorites. She was a fan of Dylan. She was a fan. She wrote. Actually, I had it pulled up. I had it in my notes. Woody Guthrie, the Carter Family. She was a big fan of it, and a handful of her favorite artists were, you know, recording music in Nashville and wanted to go there. And her quote was, "I just arrived about 30 years too late." And I think that that's really kind of a reflection of maybe it's more pop country than she would have, you know, than she likes or what she writes for. And you'll hear that in a minute if you've never heard her before. And basically what happened was she convinced David Rawlings to come down with her, and David Rawlings at Berkeley, they became each other's writing partners, musical partners. And actually, it was kind of unclear for a long time whether or not they were partners in terms of their love lives or, you know, that type of thing. And they really keep that hidden. They are a musical couple, but they don't make it part of their act. They very rarely write any songs or any kind of nods to that. You can tell when they're on stage together that they're, you know, very so in love and they spend all the time together and all that, but they're not, you know, a Johnny Cash and June Carter kind of situation where it's kind of weaving in and out of their songs. So, and I like that. I like that this is more they kind of keep that separate, and their musical relationship is more about the songs that they want to write, which are not about their life or a perspective of someone or a couple. Most of her songs and the group, if you want to call them the group as the duo, most of the time have taken her name, just as Gillian Welch. And for a period of time, they went by Dave Rawlings Machine. That was actually more of a band, but when they were a duo, typically it's been Gillian Welch. And her first album was released in 1996, and if you think about that, 1996, what's that? What the hell is 2020? So 24 years ago, they've only released like 5 albums. They are so particular about what gets released. They go back over a song like dozens of times, in the recording process and all that, just to make sure that it's perfect. But her first album came out in 1996. It was called Revival, and T-Bone Burnett had reached out to her or found her at she was playing out or something like that, and was like, I want to produce an album for you, but I want to let you and David, just do your thing like you normally are, which is being the acoustic, stripped down, simple, act that they are, and just try and capture that, which he did in helping them write it. And they got great reviews for it in the country and folk and bluegrass scene. And eventually, a few years later, she was able to, because of the connection with T-Bone Burnett, which he's a longtime partner of the Coen brothers in terms of movie soundtracks. And that's just a little reminder. We do have a new show coming out about movie soundtracks next week. It's called Soundtracks. And the first one's about The Big Lebowski. And T-Bone Burnett is the music curator for that movie. But anyway, so the Coen brothers have a kind of a long-standing partnership with T-Bone Burnett. And she was asked by T-Bone Burnett and the Coen brothers to do 2 songs on the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack, and was nominated for a Grammy, and kind of put her really on the map outside of the folk scene. Obviously, when you get to the Grammys, it's going to be a much wider audience than just your folk festivals and things like that. And she was touring a lot and going through the kind of on the road life, on living the tough life, I should say, that is. And she said that she didn't record or write while she was on the road, but definitely didn't record. And what happened was she had a contract that was for a writing contract for music, and it was set to renew. So this was December 2002, and on January 1, I guess 2003, the contract would have renewed if she didn't produce 48 songs. So what happened was her and Dave were at home, and he basically said, well, we should record 48 songs to get you out of this contract, because at that point they had become such a larger act that they could sustain themselves. They didn't have to write for other people anymore. She was kind of a studio writer at the time, and this, what you're about to hear, some songs from it, is the songs that were written and recorded in one weekend. 48 songs. So this is Boots number 2, the Lost Songs Volume 1. There's gonna be 3 volumes of it, and they were never released because the way that Gillian and David write songs or write albums is as a kind of set album, right? So like maybe a story arc or kind of highs and lows throughout the album. And these are super interesting, like little snapshots and stories. And the way that she tells the story looking back on this album is that they basically, over the course of a weekend, she had hundreds of notebooks just written, with notes of songs or lyrics or that, and they just went through them. And he would pick one out and say, you want to do this one? Yeah. And then they would, each take one and divide and conquer, and, basically go in a room and come back and say, well, I put this together, musically with it, or I finished out the lyrics on this one. What do you think? And record it on a tape machine, and done. So the other thing about this album that's different, and like I said before, is that their albums are usually so perfect in terms of how it's arranged, the lyrics. This is super raw. And I think when I heard it for the first time, I didn't even think like this is different than her normal stuff. But it's raw in the sense that it's there's no structure to a lot of the songs, and I think that's what makes it even better. There's no choruses in half the songs. Most of them are like 2 or 3 minutes, and they're just these little vignettes of a person, a sad person, or a quick heartbreak tale, or she writes a lot of bluegrass and country stuff, so there's outlaw songs, and there's just these little tidbits that are really interesting to listen to, and you're like, there's certain things in here that people would probably die to, kill for, to whatever the phrase is, to actually be able to write. So then what happened was, this had been recorded, and they put it away for whatever reason. She didn't release it, and it was put away for years. And I don't think that they were ever really planning on releasing it. I know that they gave a song or two, one of them to Alison Krauss and the other one to Solomon Burke. Solomon Burke actually released Valley of Tears in like 2005, 2006, which is on this volume 1. And it was just like their work for them, basically. And if someone wanted to use something, it must be that maybe it's a known thing, or maybe people come to Gillian and David and they're like, do you have a song that we can use? And probably that's obviously what happened with Solomon Burke. But they have a recording studio in Nashville, and these were in the archives in the recording studio, all these 48 songs. And in March, when the tornado ripped through Nashville, it ripped the roof off of their studio, and like hours and hours of rain fell in the studio and ruined a lot of things, and almost ruined these tapes that were in there. And basically they were like, we were so close to losing them. It was kind of a little bit of a traumatic thing, because it's their work, they value it. And so they decided, now's a really good time to release it. They just a few weeks before they released this album released a song of covers. So on what we're listening to a few weeks ago, I played their cover of Jackson, which I really like, but the album is called All the Good Times, and it's just covers of, there's a Bob Dylan cover on there, there's a John Prine cover, there's a Johnny Cash cover, the June Carter and Johnny Cash Jackson song. So they decided to put it out there and release it so that it's not lost. So if something ever happens, it's somewhere else, right? It's on the internet somewhere. So that's why they decided to release it now, which I think is a really good reason. And artists are releasing things in pieces, and we saw Neil Young release Homegrown years after being written, and thought that was going to be the lost album forever. And it's seemingly a decent time as ever to put this music out there while they can't tour, and hopefully they can help rebuild their studio, which is one of the reasons that they wanted to release it as well. So let me play one, and I'll just play an excerpt. I want to play like a few of these, and why not, right? What are we here for? We're here to talk folk. So let's play. I'll pick a random one here. We'll start with this one. It's called First Place Ribbon. It's a little bit more up tempo. I think it's a good one to start with. But it's about a girl at a state fair who it seems like kind of travels with the state fair and is like a mystery to the boys who hang around the fair, like, who is she kind of thing. So here you go. First Place Ribbon.
Kathy never would wear breeches. Kathy never would wear shoes. She's the kind of girl likes the dust between her toes. Says she never get the blues. Met her on a Sunday at the county fair with a first place ribbon in her hair. Oh, Kathy never did like preachers, didn't like to tell the truth. Caught my eye, no, she was not shy, and I was walking by the kissing booth.
So it's this fun little story about this girl, Kathy. She doesn't have shoes. She's got dust between her toes. Like, she seems like a vagrant, traveling with this fair. And there's a 2-line chorus. Met her on a Sunday at the county fair with a first place ribbon in her hair, and they're trying to figure out, the stories about why do you have that ribbon in your hair, what'd you win it from, and basically this little snapshot, this little story. The one thing I do love about this song, it's only 2 minutes, exactly 2 minutes. There's the quick little choruses, there's a little story that happens, and there's really good guitar playing and harmony between David and Gillian. It's just really well done. And to think that this was just like a lost song, and she's gonna have 48 of these. All right, so let's do another one. The next one, well, let's do this one. It's Apalachicola, which is a town in Florida. I actually don't know where in Florida it is, but and it's a story about a person who's trying to leave Apalachicola and cannot, and you'll see why. And we don't find out why he's in this situation, but here we go.
Apalachicola ain't my kind of town. Apalachicola ain't my kind of town. I was going back to Cali, now I'm Apalachicola bound.
So she starts with the chorus. It says, Apalachicola ain't my kind of town. He's trying to go back to Cali, and now you'll see why he's talking about it.
They hauled me to the station in a cuff and chain. Hauled me to the station in a cuff and chain.
So, was trying to leave. On his way out, got arrested and turned around. Or he was turned around.
Told him I was guilty, thought I'd rest in jail. But in Apalachicola, they make you feel an orchard pale. Apalachicola ain't my kind of town. Apalachicola.
And I like how she sprinkled in, and you don't know, part of this could be David Rawlings writing this as well, so I should give him credit here too. They write everything together. But sprinkling in things like they make you feel in an orchard pail. Florida orchards, maybe it's oranges, whatever. And just these little one-liners in this song.
Oranges in the summer, oranges in the fall. Oranges in the winter time, but they're tough and small. Man, I wish I hadn't come to Apalachicola.
So I like that. I like that it's just this little story about somebody who's stuck essentially probably in some, in prison, but made to do work of some sort, maybe harvesting an orange orchard. And she says it at the end of the song. And I kept saying he, but there's no reason why it wouldn't be a she. Gillian's very gender neutral in all of her writing in most of these songs. So I'll play one that's actually very similar in subject, but it sounds very different. So this one's called Shotgun Song.
Well, I wish I had a shotgun I'd tie to my side. Never be without the power to make a man do right. Steady on my shoulder, standing in the wind.
So the thing I love about this particular song is I'm reading the lyrics right now, and there's no chorus. It's just a stream of verses, and you don't really notice it until you actually read it that there is no chorus, because it just flows so nicely. And it's not that it's, these are really well written songs. You think about, they wrote and recorded all these in a weekend. I mean, she had written them for years in terms of like the pieces of them, but they arranged them and then recorded them and probably wrote the music to most of these that weekend. And it's probably better than it's better music than most people can create, with years of time to create something.
I've been down before, but I won't be down again. But I ain't got no silver, no pony, no gun. All I got's this hammer like old John Henry swung. Been 10 years on this chain gang, one more day and then I've been down before, but I won't be down again. I'm standing on this rock.
So if you just heard it, so the whole story is about somebody who's going to be an outlaw, and he's got his shotgun and all that, and then the way that I picture it is almost like a little movie in my head, where it's just this flashback or this fantasy of the person who's riding as an outlaw with a shotgun, and then it cuts to this person, ain't got no silver, no pony, no gun, all I got's this hammer like old John Henry swung. So again, a reference back to the chain gangs and the John Henry as the character, like in her other song Elvis Presley Blues, which she probably wrote at the same time as writing this. So kind of interesting to think about the link there. All right, let's do one more. Oh, let's do my favorite. My favorite song on this album, and we're gonna end on a bit of a sad one. We'll see how we feel after that. Maybe we'll do one more, but we're gonna end on a bit of a sad one. This one's called Chinatown, and there's no. I think the thing that I love about these little excerpts is that there's no context to the stories. Not that you're gonna get huge backstories for music anyway, but there's no explanation. So there was no time in some of these songs for them to really write the full story arc for some of these characters or a full related album for it, right? So this song, Chinatown, leaves me with my head scratching of who is this person, apparently in Chinatown, wherever they are, where they've been basically left alone by, doesn't say, society, loved ones, friends, family, maybe all of the above, and they're just watching the world go by and fade away, basically. And it's just really well written. I actually want to stop along the way, because I think that this is the highlight of the album for me, in terms of the actual lyrics. So here we go. This is Chinatown.
sundown, and the bells are warning. And I miss the mailman again. No, he had nothing for me, and nobody called today, and no one knows what to say. The black sun is beating down on Chinatown.
I'll pause it there. So there's a few things I love about this song, and it's the only link in just 3 verses. The only link in all 3 verses is the Chinatown word at the end. But did I miss the mailman again? No, he had nothing for me, and nobody called today, and no one knows what to say. And you just so quickly get launched into this person's loneliness, and then you're gonna see it like doubles on top of itself or whatever. I don't know, that's not a phrase, but you get the idea.
All of the sweetest flowers, they grow up on the sunny side. But down here, it's the darkest hour, and we run the other way. At midnight to yesterday, we're always upside down in Chinatown.
So basically now, this is why I think the person so the first part is that, nobody sent anything, nobody's reached out to this person, whatever. And now the second verse, I'm pretty sure, is all the sweetest flowers, they grow up on the sunny side, but down here it's the darkest hour, and we run the other way, midnight to yesterday, and we're always upside down. So basically this person, from what I gather, has been left behind. Like this, they're in a place that's not as nice, or either was left behind or was sent to this place. But I don't think it's like in the sense of like, oh, you were exiled. I think it's like maybe it's about an old person. I don't know, who's just, there's no family, loved ones, friends around them, and everybody else is off having a good time, and they're just there. There's one more here. But the whole thing is kind of hinging on this person being stuck in Chinatown, apparently.
Oh, though I try to manage, you don't understand my mind. Our love used to speak in Spanish. There's a poison in the air, the fever's everywhere, a bad haze that hangs around in Chinatown, a bad haze that hangs around in Chinatown.
so what makes me think that it's a loved one is so the line, "You don't understand my mind, our love used to speak in Spanish." And I think that to me is saying, and that's probably on purpose, like this person is in Chinatown and there's a, reference to another culture and language or whatever. And, but I think it's like no longer part of this relationship or family or something. And again, it's just an excerpt, but I think you're kind of meant to be left wondering what's going on. So those are a few of my favorites from the album. I'll leave you with there's a fun one, and you should definitely listen to the whole thing. We're gonna have 2 more volumes that come out, which was really exciting, and I'm excited to hear them. They should be hopefully same quality. I'm assuming they will be. She was only released a few albums in her whole career, and I don't think that she would release this one without it being up to snuff, so to speak. So I'll leave you with "Back Turn and Swing." This is I like a little country dance song. Really short though, only a minute and a half. So thanks for tuning in, and if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, tell your friends. If you don't, then just pretend this never happened. We'll talk to you later.
Well, the fiddler's up and the boy is frying. Mama's in the kitchen and bacon is frying. The boys can't dance, by God, they're trying. Every time I hear that call, back turn and swing. Back turn and swing. Back turn and swing. Back turn and swing. All the girls jump up and the wine is pouring. Dust coming up between the cracks in the floor. And the old folks say don't dance anymore unless they play something slow. Back turn and swing. Back turn and swing.